Okay, so we officially reached the halfway point of the 2019 and 2020 season now that a couple of teams have hit the 41 game mark. So on this journey, we're going to be discussing who are the real contenders for 2020. We're not talking about the pretenders. We're not talking about opinions here. This isn't barbershop talk to determine, well, now that Kyrie Irving has finally come back, the Brooklyn Nets are the favorite to win it all. No. We're going to break down facts, actual facts, and not just a small sample size of facts. I'm going to give you 5 undeniable facts over the last 20 years, 2 decades worth of basketball, to determine who the legitimate contenders are to win the NBA championship. Now stick around to the end because there's going to be some surprises here. Not only will I give you some surprises, but I'm going to allude to some of the moves that need to be made for some teams that are kind of on that border to be able to cross over from pretender to actual contenders. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic, the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General Hannibal X. Now, in this journey, we're going to be discussing who the real contenders are for 2020. Once again, these are not opinions. I'm taking my personal opinions and I'm throwing it out the window. We're only going to look at what has been 100% facts for every team that has won the championship for the last 20 years. For instance, there are statistics that I found that show 18 of the last 20 teams did this, or 19 of the last 20 teams did that. Now, those are 90 to 95% ratios or percentages in regards to what the championship teams have had in common. I didn't want to include those stats because that leaves room for interpretation. So I'm only going to give you 5 undeniable stats that prove 20 of the last 20 champions all had in common. Let's start with number 1. Defense wins championships. We know that. Defense has always been important. And every single one of the champions over the last 20 years have all been a top 21 defense in defensive rating. Now, granted, once again, we could be more specific because 19 of the last 20 teams were top 11 in defense. So that would give us a little bit more clarity as far as who are real contenders or not. But once again, since it was 19 out of 20, I'm not even going to include that. And we're only going to look at the teams that are top 21 in defense. Now, out of these 30 teams, we're going to get rid of a lot of these teams because everybody's not efficient when it comes to defense. But here's a little bit more for you. Not only was every team top 21 in defense, they also were top 18 in offense. So out of these 30 teams, let's get rid of the teams that are not top 21 in defense and top 18 in offense. Well, that only leaves you with 14 teams left. So those are the bottom feeders. Well, those 16 teams, we'll get rid of them. Those are the bottom feeders. Now we're left with just the pretenders. These 14 teams here are the pretenders. Let's see out of these 14 which ones are true contenders. So now that we've got top 21 defense, top 18 offenses, let's narrow down a little bit more. Every single one of the champions over the last 20 years have all been top 8 in net rating between offense and defense. Top 8 net rating between offense and defense over the last 20 years, every last one of them. So out of these 14 teams, let's get rid of the 6 that don't even apply to them. Now we're down to 8 squads. These 8 teams here have legitimate arguments for being a contender. But we got to whittle this down just a little bit more. And once again, we could be a little bit more specific because 17 of the last 20 teams that have won the championship were a top 4 in net rating, but I didn't want to leave any room for interpretation. So we're going to only stick with what every single team has had in common, and that's top 8 in net rating. Now, let's take it up another notch. Because not only has every championship team been a top 21 defense, top 18 offense, top 8 in net rating, they also have been a top 3 seed in their conference. Now keep in mind, this contenders list is based on today. As of January 13th, 2020, as of today, this is how we're going to rank people based on what their roster construction looks like, as well as how they've been performing up to this point of the season. So things could change. So how many of these 8 teams are actually top 3 seed in their conference? Well, that only leaves you with 4 squads. That leaves you with Utah Jazz, the LA Lakers in the West, the Boston Celtics, and the Milwaukee Bucks in the East. You're down to 4 squads left. But these four squads, even though people could see some commonalities, there's something that's going to separate these teams even more that's undeniable based on the facts and not the opinions. Let's take it one step further. Every single team that has ever won a championship over the last 20 years, they had something in common. Not only were they top 21 in defense, not only were they top 18 in offense, not only were they top 8 in net rating, not only were they a top 3 seed in their conference, they also had either a superstar, a bona fide superstar, or multiple all-stars. Unfortunately, the Utah Jazz, they don't make the cut. Listen, I love Donovan Mitchell. I love Mike Conley, and I love Rudy Gobert. I even love Bogdanovich. None of those guys are a superstar. None of them. Mitchell has superstar potential. He's yet to make even one all-star team. If you saw my last video, I do have him projected to make the all-star team, but he's yet to make it. And Gobert, he's never made an all-star team. So the Utah Jazz have to go based on history. History. We're only going by what history has shown us and taking our opinions out of it. So now that leaves us with 3 teams: the Boston Celtics, the Lakers, and the Milwaukee Bucks. But here's something else that every single championship team has had. Now, not only do they have to have either a bona fide superstar and or multiple all-stars, every championship team had this as well. They had a power forward and or a center that had made an all-star team or an all-NBA team prior to the year they won the championship. I'm going to say that again for you. Every single NBA championship team throughout NBA history, and specifically even the last 20 years, has all had a power forward or a center at the as an all-star and or an all-NBA level player. And they reached that accomplishment before the year that they won a championship. So unfortunately, that removes the Boston Celtics. I love their talent. I love Jason Tatum, who I think could be an all-star this year. Probably should be. I love Jaylen Brown's potential to one day be an all-star. Kemba Walker, he's an all-star. Gordon Hayward, he's been an all-star. But none of those guys are listed as a power forward and or a center. So now that leaves us with 2 teams: the LA Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, you may say, well, this is obvious, but it's not as obvious as you may think, because there are other teams that are on here. A lot of people, a lot of fans truly believe they have championship contender written all over them. But let's go ahead and expose that though. Let's go ahead and break down some of the teams that aren't on this list, because in my opinion, it's a no-brainer that the Lakers and the Bucks should be the only 2 real contenders when you look at it, because let's look at these. Look what they have. The Bucks, #1 in net rating. Lakers are #2 in net rating. The Bucks, #1 in wins. Lakers are #2 in wins. The Bucks, #1 in point differential. Lakers are #2 in point differential. There's only 2 teams in the entire NBA who are top 5 in offense and defensive rating. That's the Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks. So there should be no surprise that these are the top 2 contenders, and truly at this point in the season are the only 2 contenders. We're right now on a race, a 2-headed race for the finals. Lakers and Bucks. But let's take this one step further, because once again, we're talking about as of today, and a lot can change. We've got the trade deadline is coming up. We also have more basketball to be played. Once again, we're only at the first half of the season. Let's go back for a second. Just last year, the Toronto Raptors won the championship, and it came seemingly out of nowhere, right? Or did they? Masai Ujiri is arguably one of the best GMs, front office execs in the game. I think this should be unanimously agreed upon, right? He, if not the best, definitely top 3. And Masai made a decision last year at the trade deadline, which we're about to come up on to this year. But he made a decision to trade away a legitimate big man. And Jonas Valanciunas, who was a legitimate double-double big man, he decided to trade him as well as CJ Miles away, giving up depth that the Toronto Raptors had to go and acquire Marc Gasol. Now that at that time seemed to be an underrated move, while there was so many other, hype discussions and moves that were being made. But the Marc Gasol trade kind of went under the radar. Well, think about this for a second. The Toronto Raptors prior to to making that trade did not have a power forward and or a center on their team that had made an all-star and or an all-NBA selection. And Marc Gasol was that. He's been a defensive player of the year, all defense, all NBA, all-star. He's been that. And Marc Gasol proved in the second round against the Philadelphia 76ers, going up against 7-foot Joel Embiid, that without Marc Gasol, I don't think they'd get past Philly, to be honest with you. Now, he wasn't an all-star last year, but he had that experience. He had that on his resume. And I think he paid dividends when it came to facing the Philadelphia 76ers in particular, which was their toughest game or their toughest series on their way to the championship, which is the only series they went 7 games. Also keep in mind with this, Toronto last year was top 5 in offense and defense. And they were number 4 in net rating. Like, Toronto may have surprised some people, but the reality was they hit every single check mark that championship teams have. That's why they won the championship, despite the fact that Golden State had an injury to Kevin Durant, because Golden State, they also checked every box as well. But let's look at the teams this year that have the ability to get into that contender status with LA and with Milwaukee that are sitting right on the outside as of today, but they still got a whole nother half of the season left. Let's start with Philadelphia, for instance. Philadelphia was my pick to go to the finals in the preseason. They were my pick. And as of right now, they're not a top 3 seed, and their offense is not cutting it. Now, I gave you the numbers to say every team that's won a championship has been a top 18 offense. And that's true. Right now, Philadelphia, as of today, is number 17. So they check that box, but they need to improve that. They truly need to improve that because 19 of the last 20 teams that won the championship were top 11 offense. The only team that wasn't a top 11 offense was the Detroit Pistons from 2004. And that's one of the greatest defensive teams of all time when you had Ben Wallace, Rasheed, Tayshaun Prince. Like they had some legitimate defenders over there. And they were number 2 in defense that year, Detroit was. So that was the outlier. That 18th ranking for Detroit was an outlier that year. Every other team over the last 20 years has been top 11 or better. Philly right now is number 17. They got to improve their offense. And they got to get up to a top 3 seed right now. They're in that 4th, 5th, 6th spot. You know, just kind of, and they're not far away from it. But they got to improve. Talent-wise, I think they have everything that you need. They have a superstar. They have a power forward and a center who has made an all-star, all-NBA before. So they have everything else that you need from a roster construction standpoint. They do need to get some shooting. They have to get some shooting. I think that will help their offense and get their offensive rating up to that top 11. So you know, they have some moves they can make around the edges, but no real major moves that they need to make. Another team, the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets are another team that a lot of people are projecting, and I'm projecting to make the Western Conference Finals. Some people even projecting them to win the championship. Well, if they're going to do that, there's a couple things they have to do. Number 1, they got to get to the top 3 seed. Right now, they think they're fighting in that 4th or 5th spot, and they're only about a game or half a game out of the top 3 spot, but they're going to have to secure that top 3 seed to be able to go into the playoffs if they want to have a legitimate chance to get out of the West and win a championship. But in order to do that, they've got to improve their defense. Right now, they're ranked number 16 in defensive rating. Once again, as long as you're top 21 in defense, you now put yourself in that category. But 19 of the last 20 teams that won the championship were a top 11 defense, not just top 21. Houston right now is on the outside of that top 11 at number 16. The one team that did win a championship that was not a top 11 defense was the 2001 LA Lakers. That was the team that had Kobe and Shaq on it, was one of the most dominant offensive teams. I think they were top 2 or 3 offensive team that year, and I think Shaq had dealing with some injuries during the season, so their ratings were a little off, but as we saw when the playoffs came, they steamrolled everybody, losing only 1 game during the playoff. So that Kobe and Shaq team with 2 top 5 players on it, the most dominant player in the game at that time, that's a big difference from this Houston Rockets team. So they need to improve their defense. And 16th right now is good. It's not good enough. Let's move on to the next team, the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers are a lot of people's favorites to win a championship. A couple things they have to improve on. Number 1, you got to get into that top 3 seed. They're losing a lot of games due to load management. They're losing a lot of games due to load management. They lost just the other night in a big matchup to Denver. And they've lost some games to teams below 500 that they shouldn't be losing. Now, some people might say, well, it won't really matter because they'll load manage Kawhi Leonard during the regular season, load manage Paul George, and they'll be ready to go during the playoffs. Here's the problem with that. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have never played together. These are two superstars that are trying to learn how to play together. They need time and chemistry on the court to build that. Also, they need to get into the top 3 seed. Remember, no team below 3 has won a championship over the last 20 years. You could probably go back even further, but I only looked at the last 20 years worth of data. But here's one of the biggest holes that they have, and I've been saying it all summer. They don't have a power forward or a center on their roster that has made an all-star or an all-NBA team prior to the season. They're one of the teams that I think legitimately can win a championship and legitimately can be a contender if they make a big move. I don't think they need to make a small move around the outside. I would say, personally, Lou Williams or Montrezl Harrell, package them, maybe some other young players. You got to trade one of those guys out. Instead of having a big 4, go to big 3 and get you a bona fide all-star big man in there. And I'm going to be doing some videos coming up on potential trades that I think some of these teams should make to get themselves into contender status. But as of right now, I think that's what the Clippers need to do. Now, a couple other teams are the Boston Celtics. Boston, to me, I think has everything that you truly would want from an offense, defensive standpoint, net rating. They check all those boxes. They're top 3 seed, they check all those boxes. The one thing they're missing is they need help on that front court. They don't have that power forward, don't have that center who's been an all-star, all-NBA player. They got to get some help in that front court. And I think they're making a trade to get that help, especially with the talent and the collection of picks that they have. They're not far away from it. So Boston is a team that's 1 foot out, but they could easily be in as the trade deadline comes. Another team, the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz are a team. They qualify when it comes to offense, defense, net rating, top 3 seed. They're there in all of those boxes. What they're missing is that multiple all-star. Now, here's the thing. Donovan Mitchell could become an all-star this year. I think he should. I think that Rudy Gobert has a chance to make an all-star team. He's playing, and he's a top 2 or 3 candidate for Defensive Player of the Year yet again. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they get some additional all-stars so they can have multiple all-stars. They're surprising. Since making that Jordan Clarkson move, they haven't lost a game. They're 9-0 since making that trade. So they're putting these pieces together, and maybe they have a team that can legitimately compete. I still think they're one piece away. I still think they're one legitimate all-star, maybe even an experienced all-star away. But we'll discuss that in some future videos coming up as well. Here's my last team, and honestly one of the most surprising teams of the teams that I would even put in the pretender status. That's the Miami Heat. Listen, you got to tip your hat to Miami. I mean, this team right here has truly come out of nowhere. Yes, they signed Jimmy Butler this summer, who gives them that bona fide all-star. Some people call him a superstar. I don't really think he's a superstar. I think he's more of a borderline superstar, more of an all-star. But he's an elite 2-way all-star. But I think that Bam Adebayo should be an all-star this year. And I think that his versatility, he kind of gives them what they need, especially from that front court player, to complement Jimmy Butler. And with all the other young shooters and young players that they have around them, Miami's a scary team. But they got some improvement to do as well. Net rating, they got to get it up just a little bit more. I think they're right now like number 10, right on the outside. So it's a lot of time left for them to improve that. They got to get that into the top 8. They also have to improve on their defense. Right now, they're number 14 in defense. Losing Hassan Whiteside seems to really have hurt them. He's right now leading the league in shot blocks. So they got to get that defense up into that top 11. Right now, like I said, they're number 14, so it's not too much further off that they have to get to. They're top 3 seed right now. Like I say, offensively they're rolling, but defensively got to just improve just a little bit more. And the Miami Heat right now, like I say, they're one of the teams who Spoelstra should be in the running for Coach of the Year. This has been a very surprising. I mean, Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero, like these guys are balling. So let me know, what do you think? What do you think about the fact that the Lakers and the Bucks are truly, as of today, the only 2 legitimate contenders? Now listen, I welcome you to come to the comment section, but be very clear. Your opinions are welcomed. But these are facts that I've given you. Undeniable facts. And urge everyone to do your own research, to not take my word for these as being fact. Do your own research and verify that these are the facts and that I haven't fudged any stats. Do your own research on that. But as it stands right now, those are the only two contenders. Let me know a team outside of the Lakers and outside of the Bucks. Who do you think is a real legitimate contender? And let me know why. Go into the comment section below and let me know. As always, I appreciate you for taking a look at this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, and tap that notification bell so that you can stay updated with the journey of a Ballaholic.